Blog Talk
Welcome
Radio.
to MindShifters Radio. Jeannie, are you with us? Well, this is your host, Dr. Michael Ryce, and welcome to another edition of MindShifters Radio, where we're here to support you in shifting your mind out of, some of the norms of the culture into the norms of a human life, into the norms of a human being, the active presence of love. We've got some new information to share with you, some exciting information. It's something that developed yesterday with our radio show, and that is that if you didn't hear us on WWNN, which is a land-based station in Boca Raton, Florida, 50,000-watt station that goes from Martin County all the way down to Miami, and out of that interview yesterday, we had an invitation to become a presenter, a host on one of their shows. So we're actually going to be changing the time of our blog talk shows from 2 until 3 each day, 5 days a week, instead of 1 until 2 Eastern time, in order to facilitate the coordination of our show on WWNN, which will be on Tuesdays. We're on a station that's doing work with recovery, rockers in recovery, and so Tuesday will be our recovery day. And we'll actually combine those two shows. They'll function as one, and we'll be doing the work of forgiveness, in particularly asking folks to call in with questions about their issues around recovery and the forgiveness process. So starting next week, if you just watch our website, the link will take you to it at the right time, but it'll be from 2 until 3 o'clock, Monday to Friday, instead of 1 till 2, starting Monday. And then on Tuesday, you'll be able to tap in the same way, or if you're in South Florida on the East Coast, you'll be able to listen to 1470 AM, anywhere from Miami up into Port St. Lucie, and hear MindShifters Radio. So welcome to the show today. Jeannie, are you with us yet? Well, we don't appear to have Jeannie. She must be having some technical difficulties.
No,
hi, sweetie. How are you?
I am good. I was speaking a while ago and didn't realize that you didn't hear me. So, yes, I want to welcome everybody to MindShifters Radio as well. And the call-in number is 646-200-4169. And we already have a caller with a question.
Awesome.
And I think this is Arizona. 480, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, 480. Where are you calling from? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm calling from Arizona.
Welcome, Jamie. Good to hear from you.
Hey,
is this your first time on the show?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. And where did you hear about the show?
Oh, Blog Talk Radio. I did a search on psychics.
Fabulous. Well, do you have a question or a thought for us?
Yeah. I have a feeling something may have happened to me at a very, very young age, and I'm not 100% sure that it did happen. I don't remember it happening, but I have a lot of the symptoms, and I was wondering if it actually did happen.
Well, here's my highest thought, and what we work with people out of the ancient Aramaic language with is that to start digging through the past for some terrible, awful thing that happened is to become a creator of that terrible, awful thing, whether it happened or not. At this stage, really isn't relevant to your life today, except where it impacts your life today. And so here's what we suggest people do, is if you go to the website, whyagain.com, it's whyagain.com, on the right-hand side you'll see a link that says download worksheets. Click on that link and download chapter 24 in the book, from the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And start doing the worksheets. Follow the instructions and do the worksheets. And And, you know, as you walk through your life, put one foot in front of the other and be committed to maintaining a human life. That is the active presence of love in your mind and in your physiology. And when something less than that comes up, begin the forgiveness process and work with forgiveness. And forgiveness, in the context of our work, has nothing to do with letting other people off the hook for what's going on inside of you. It's how you change what's going on inside of you. And so if you walk through life doing that, and if there's something, you know, terrible thing that happened to you when you were 2 years old or a year old or 3 years old, at an appropriate time when you're ready to handle it, all of a sudden the memories will come. If you start looking for it because you suspect it, and I think that there are some people who try to get people to suspect because, of course, that makes good clients of them. And so it may or may not have, but I suggest you don't do a deep, dark search. You just live as love, one foot in front of the other through your life and through your world. And whenever you can, get into forgiveness. And then whatever's there will automatically surface as you do that. That's my experience with the forgiveness process from the Aramaic.
Right. Well, I mean, that has been happening to me. So, you know, this has been happening to me. So, you know.
Could you say that again? You kind of cut out a little bit.
I've been having dreams. This has been happening to me. So.
Right. And so I'd suggest you dig out that worksheet process and start doing worksheets around those dreams and what's coming up in those dreams. And if there's something to uncover, you'll uncover it like that. Trying to find it becomes the booby prize. That's my experience. Because generally speaking, go ahead.
I'm not really trying to find it. I'm just, you know, I'm trying to make a connection. You know, I have these dreams and I have these symptoms and I had these symptoms, and I'm just trying to put two and two together. You know, it's you know, it's like a puzzle. And I want to find this.
Well, in our codependence to interdependence work, one of the things we suggest to people is that trying to figure it out is one of the pseudo-solutions of what we call the non-being mind. You can't figure it out. What you can do is each time any component of it comes up is forgive it, and you apply forgiveness to what's coming up, not to the people that bring it up, not to yourself, but to the contents of your mind, the contents of your dreams, the emotions around your dreams, the emotions around the symptoms. You know, you can put a symptom in that first blank in the worksheet in number 1A and carry on, and you treat that symptom. You speak to it as though it were a person, and you deal with it in that way, and what will happen is if there's something underneath it for you to find out about it, all of a sudden, bang, there it's going to be. So that's my best input. Okay, appreciate your call. Thanks. Blessings.
Thank you. Good day.
Any support we can be, let us know. If there are any, you know, dig out that worksheet, do a few worksheets, and then if you have some questions. Actually, Tuesday, we're going to walk a person through the worksheet process, step by step. So if you can be on the show Tuesday, we'll be doing the live instructions, and so if you've done a few between now and Tuesday, you'll be able to ask questions for any refinements you want on it. And again, starting Monday, the show will be from 2 until 3 instead of 1 until 2. So thanks for your call. Blessings.
That's all we have for right at this moment.
All right. Awesome. So the work that we're doing, you know, we've spoken several times, but we can't reinforce it too often, is if you ask anybody on the planet to describe the newborn that they held, their answer is always some variation on the theme of love. And I offer that's because everybody knows what life is. It is the active presence of love. And when we come in, what the world tends to do is start to put thumbprints on us and teach us to function as something other than love. And this work is about cleaning out, forgiving, removing whatever's unlike love in your field. And, you know, of course, the mind will come up with all kinds of reasons. I'm feeling this because of this. I'm feeling this because of that. I'm feeling this because they did it to me. I'm feeling it because that happened to me. And our offering is you're not feeling anything because of anything that happens in your world. You're feeling it because it's in your physiology. If it's unlike love, it doesn't belong there. Forgive it. Remove it. The world teaches us to let somebody else off the hook for what's going on inside of us, which, of course, leaves everything that's going on inside of us intact. And hostility and fear in the human mind defile our perception, reduce our intelligence and lead us into doing crazy stuff. And what we're looking to do is put an end on planet Earth to crazy stuff by waking ourselves up and stepping back to a literal active presence of love and living in that space, because that's what humans are designed for. So, Ginny, any questions in the chat room or thoughts?
No, there's a few people in there, but they're just sitting there listening, so nobody has
All right, well, we're delighted that you're listening. Go ahead, sweetie.
I was just going to say the number again for those that are listening for calling in is 646-200-4169.
And the bottom line of everything that we're doing is we want to encourage you to do that forgiveness process. That's the thing that changes the content of the mind. That's the thing that changes our lives. And all the other gyrations of the world, generally speaking, are kind of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. When you go back to the ancient Aramaic language, and that's where our tools come from, you find that they knew exactly how the mind worked, exactly how the emotions work, exactly how the creative process works, and they knew exactly how to clean it up. And the key tool was that of forgiveness. And from there, we stretch out into a whole variety of tools in our work, from healing through relationships to codependence to interdependence. And that codependence dynamic is an interesting one because, of course, when we deny ownership for something that's going on in our minds, we dissociate from it. We don't believe it's ours the next time it comes up. And we use that data that we've dissociated from to build our brain's image of someone else. And, of course, they show up in our mind with our problem attached, and we're sure it must be their problem. But the question I ask everybody who's in pain, pointing a finger at somebody else, is, if they're the one with the problem, why are you the one with the pain? And it's true. They may have a problem. But if you're in pain, your pain is a warning signal that there's an energy in your physiology that doesn't belong there. And until you start to dig that energy out, the tendency will be to live the title of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? My book, you can go to whyagain.com, WHYAGAIN.com, and download the book free. Of course, we'd love it if you buy one from us. That helps to keep our show on the road. Jeannie and I are on the road usually anywhere from 6 to 10 months of the year. What are we in, our fifth month now, Jeannie? We were going to be gone for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we came to the point we had this choice to make. We either had to, in January, go to Missouri or Fort Lauderdale. And it was a tough struggle, but we decided to go for Fort Lauderdale, And, gee, I don't know, it's about 78 degrees right now and sunny. So everybody up there in cold land, we send you heat and warmth, and we're delighted to be in Florida.
Yeah.
It looks like we're going to be here until the latter part of March, and then head back to Las Vegas. A physician in Las Vegas, and our accolades to Dr. Stephen. Has 4 clinics, and just before we left Las Vegas, we taught 20 medical assistants to facilitate people doing the forgiveness worksheet. And so Dr. Stephen is writing prescriptions for people to do forgiveness. And it's where the healing happens. It's where we start to take charge of our own energy fields, and we start to remove what never belonged. You had a thought, Jeannie?
I was just going to say we have Terry Bowling on the line. Terry, you're on.
Oh, welcome, Terry. This is, for those who are new to the show, Terry Bowling is our artiste in residence at Heartland, our teaching center in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, and our contractor/project coordinator that just does a bit of everything. And, Terry, how do you be this morning? What's happening in Heartland?
Oh, it's just a gorgeous day here today. The weather is just phenomenal. It's a super spring day. The sun's shining, and tuning into the station here. It's just all good stuff.
Awesome. So do you have a thought to share with us today, a question, a comment? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I had 2 comments. For the caller, Jamie, that was just online there.
Yes.
One of the things that came up for me was that the tools are simple, yet when they're first introduced, there can be a challenge to absorb and to get into those. And I thought this might be an opportunity for us to look at offering folks like Jamie an additional off-the-air conference type call where he could check in with one of the support team and have a little bit of a more in-depth explanation. We had time to go into it a little bit more and see if it was really a program that he wanted to embrace. So that was one of the thoughts that I had that came up around that, because, you know, the folks out there are wanting to they're wanting to change, they're wanting to heal, they're wanting to tap into this love. You know, that's just what everybody's looking for. And that might be a way that we could expand and broaden that and open up to them a little bit more.
Cool.
Yeah.
And do you have a way you want them to contact you, by email or?
I'm okay with phone or email. We can talk about how we could lay this out as a support team, you know, as a whole. But for right now, if Jamie wants to give me a call after the show, I'd be glad to talk to him for a bit, and you can give his number out or what do you think is appropriate there, Dr. Ryce?
He actually has disconnected off of the line, so he's not listening at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he might still be on the website, but we don't know that.
Jamie, if you're out there, either pop back in the chat room or back onto the switchboard, and we'll give you some further information.
Yeah, if you're in the chat room, we'll give you Terry's phone number. You can give him a call and chat with him.
Yep. I don't know.
What was your other thought, Terry?
Okay. Then the other thought was I was reading this morning in chapter 13, Off the Mark. And I came across something, even though I've been through this reading several times, it was something that I don't think I saw that before. It's,
the brain cell thing.
Yeah, in talking about the disintegrative energies producing the disease in our cells, then there was a little short list of threat, fear, guilt, manipulation, confusion, and overwhelm are disintegrative energies that are at the root of most disease processes. And then it elaborates on the time delay factor about the disease and all. But what struck me was the overwhelm and confusion, as I had been seeing those as the confusion stemming from conflicting realities rising up in an opportunity for me to let go of some beliefs and to engage in some healing. And the overwhelm, I hadn't really had any insight on that, but I didn't connect it as overwhelm as a disintegrative energy. And I wanted to see if you could elaborate a little bit on that aspect of it, if that's appropriate.
Sure. Well, if you watch somebody in overwhelm, one of the first things you do is hold their breath. That's one of the prime indicators of somebody's trying to deal with or dissociate from a disintegrative energy. And, you know, too much too fast, and we tend to want to shut down on that energy. Confusion, you know, it's interesting. Thoughts are electrical in nature. When you said, gee, I've been through this book several times, and I think you've shared with me here maybe like 7-8 times you've read it. And when I see something new that I didn't see before, it's because I've built new brain cells. My mind couldn't serve up to me what wasn't stored in it. And each time you read it, you're storing something new, which means you can see the next level of it. And that book is written on so many levels that most people could literally read it at least 100 times and come up with something new each time as you build the brain cells and go through it. And I mean consecutive readings, just one after another after another. And so the confusion happens when we have content in brain cells, let's say, for instance, that has something loving about a particular object of attention, and then something that's based in hostility or fear. When both those things happen at once, and I use the example of if I took a blue light, a red light, and a green light, and I shone it on a white background, we'd have clarity on blue, red, and green. Now, we know that there's no such thing as a color, blue, red, and green. Scientifically, we know they're just different wave shapes or frequencies that the brain interprets as color. But if I took all three of them and I shone them on one spot on that white background, I wouldn't get clarity on blue, green, or red because those frequencies are additive and subtractive. I get a muddied mess of it. I get a confused picture of those colors. And it's exactly the same in the mind. And one of the symptoms, we talk about the symptoms of healing, one of the symptoms is confusion. It's part of the process. If you've got dissociated energy stored in your mind and you decide you want to have clarity around that particular issue, then you've got to go inside your mind and deal with that issue and bring up the conflicting information as the conflicting information comes up. In the presence of other information, additive, subtractive nature of electrical frequencies, and you have what's called confusion. If you keep breathing, if you keep forgiving, you clear out the conflicting energy and have clarity. Bang, a whole new level of clarity. And so that's definitely a part of the healing process and a necessary step to go through.
Okay, so yes, though the confusion is a marker that I'm in a disintegrative energy pattern. However, it's also part of the healing process.
Yeah, well, what it's saying is, if let's say I've decided, I heard this thing about newborns being loved, and I realized I was a newborn once, and therefore I must be loved. So now I'm going to live lovingly. So I bring the energy, the frequency of my being loved, into my mind. And my mind holds, well, your father told you were a horse's ass. You would never amount to anything. You'll never be any good. You're stupid. What's wrong with you? So when I get those two frequencies going on in my mind at one time, I've got confusion. And so each time I decide to go for a new level of clarity in my being, I have to bring up and let that which is not clear in my mind go. And the interim step, the interim process there is digging out and allowing the old confused energies, the conflicting energies to surface. And they'll surface more quickly and more powerfully the more committed you are, the more connected to love you are. And so that's just one of the stages in the process. And a lot of people aren't willing to go through it. Healing, as we've spoken about in some of the earlier shows, healing is not Dr. Feelgood. That's why a lot of people resist it. They'll start doing worksheets, and then they really start getting in touch with some things they've been dissociated from, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't need to do these anymore. I'm finished. And, I don't want to deal with this. So, dealing with it's part of the process. And the willingness, we talk about willingness as the cosmic grease. Willingness is literally the energy that allows you to move quickly through that healing process, which consists of, on three levels. Physical, it's any kind of physical symptom you've ever had in low energy. Mental, it's all kinds of negative thoughts and confusion. Emotional, it's negative feelings and depression. And so you'll go back through those energies as you clean up the contents of your mind. And on the other side, clarity. Purity. Nothing that conflicts left in my physiology. Now my cells thrive. Until then, the energy I've dissociated from, the minute that I dissociate from something, I literally give a command to the cell that frequency is stored in to distort. I actually literally, physically distort the cell by putting into it a frequency that doesn't belong in it. And when I realize that I've done that, then I have to be willing to move back through all of those energies that I've put in my structure to create distortion. So here we are in the healing process.
And so we had someone in the chat room was asking what book, because you just kind of started off saying reading the book. And so I told them that it was your Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that just made me think, since you were offering Jamie and some of the others some options, to kind of explain just a little bit, since we got Terry on the line, what the process of that the support group is doing with the building the brain cells.
Sure, Terry. You are the most experienced person on the phone with building the brain cells game. So do you want to talk a little bit about building the brain cells?
Sure, I'll give a little overview on that. David Hayes, our coordinator.
Maybe how you got started, how you got started, and the impact that it's had on you.
Yes. Well, a couple of years ago, I was going through some major transitions in my life, and I was in a place of a lot of pain and disintegrative energies and trauma and things going on in my life. And David and I had connected, and David Hayes, our coordinator here. And David invited me to play this game that he was working on. And in the game, we made an agreement with each other, actually. It's a reciprocal thing, so that you develop a support person. And for those of you in 12 steps, it's kind of like a sponsor person. And made an agreement for 10 days that I would do one worksheet a day. And then when I've completed my worksheet, I would contact David and let him know my agreement was completed. And that was the extent of my willingness, what I felt I could commit to, was to do one worksheet and contact David. I agreed to do it for 10 days. And David had his own agreements he was doing. He did.
I'm not sure whose microphone is cutting in and out, but Terry, start back over with that last sentence.
I was holding. There was some wind or something coming through.
Yeah.
So I had my agreement, one worksheet, call, check in for 10 days, and David had some other agreements. He was doing more than just the one, and he also would check back with me and acknowledge he had completed his agreement. So there was like a synergy created. And I wasn't, of course, totally into tune all this. I was just getting started with it, and it's like, okay, I'll just do this because things weren't working, and it was kind of like, what have I got to lose situation, And after engaging in that for the 10 days, I had a success that was mine, that I could own, where I had kept my agreement with myself and built some confidence and trust with myself that, yes, I would agree to do something, and I would do it and follow through with it. And from that small 10-day window of success, repeated success, and completing that, then I started another 10-day and added another small agreement to that next 10-day window. And this has went on, and this has gone on for over 2 years now. And the impact and the depth of healing and strengthening and empowerment, that's the word, personal empowerment for me, is huge. As I continue to build, it's like building the foundation of a house. If you dig the footers deep and you put the right amount of concrete and steel in that footer, and you've got all those pieces laid in there correctly, well, that's going to support your house for a long, long time, and it's going to support it properly and correctly, and you're not going to have troubles as you go on up and build onto that. Well, this was the basic foundation. Beginning was the agreement, and to use a tool to work through the things that were coming up with me. And over the last 2 years, there have been so many blessings that have come about from that, to deepen the relationships with my children, with my wife, with my mother, with everyone I'm in contact with, and has allowed me to do things at a level that previously hadn't been able to, especially in the relations of why is it I do the things I would not do and don't do the things that I want to do. This is because I didn't believe myself. I'd always lie to myself. I'm going to do that. Oh, that's great. And then as soon as something would come up, well, then that didn't happen. So that was reinforcing the failure brain cells, the failure program that was running in me. And this was a powerful tool that chipped away at that, and it uncovered the old stuff and moved it out and cleaned up the wreckage there, the debris, and allowed me to get back to a solid foundation, one that allowed for true growth.
Well, I think, Terry, the point you really bring home, and you've been doing this work now for about 7 years, and as I recall it, maybe you could share a little bit about before you started to play the building the brain cells game, what your process looked like. You started hanging out with and using these tools and did your first workshops about 7 years ago, and I think your first intensive maybe 6 years ago. So in that 5 years before you started building the brain cells, what would happen for you?
Well, what would happen was, like with the first workshop, went to the workshop. Oh, this is good stuff. Went to participated in the breath workshop that Saturday. Marvelous experience in the breath workshop, and moved stuff and connected, and wow, I got to have more of this. And I made an agreement with myself. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to dig in, and then of course, you guys moved on to your next location, and here I was, attempting to engage in this, and it went along all right for I don't know what period of time there, for maybe a week or two, and then eventually, things came up, and then the next thing you know, it's a dim memory in my mind, Now, fortunately, the experience I had in the breath workshop was so powerful for me that it anchored in at a really deep level. So it was an experience that I had that was indisputable as far as the benefits. So even as I got deeper and deeper back into my old stuff, and things just seemed like they were worse than ever, I came back around, went to another workshop, went to the intensive. Oh, wow, this is it. Yep, I knew this was the good stuff. Get into it, get up to a new level, and have all kinds of great things going on. And then back out into the world, a few weeks later, I've kind of forgotten about that stuff, not doing my stuff on a daily basis, thinking that, just once is enough, looking for the quick, easy, simple fix kind of thing. That's what part of my old behavior was, is I want it now, and I want it all now, and I really don't want to have to do all
easier way.
Yeah, the softer, easier way. And before you know it, things were back into the old grinder, and it was painful realities were surfacing, and I was not using the tools, and so I went through that cycle over 5 years, and it seemed like I would get higher, and then as I'd get higher and clearer and even more inspired, and then more challenges would come up, and I wasn't conscious of what was going on, because I was thinking, when that stuff would start to happen, I'm thinking, oh, it's all bullshit and it's all worthless and it's just not, it's just not working, and I knew this wasn't going to do it, and then, into that downward spiral, and then hit another bottom, so to speak, in a level of willingness, and jump back in, and sure enough, it'd start working again, and the tools worked, the things, programs worked, and I was getting better, but that cycle was pretty vicious for that 5-year period, and it got worse by not sticking with it, because I was building up brain cells and building up vitality and tapping into deeper levels, which meant, whoa, I really needed support to get through those things. But I was thinking, oh, I can do this on my own and all. When the reality is, I needed help and support, and until it crescendoed at that place a couple of years ago, where I was willing to engage and stay engaged, and I became supportable. That's the way David described it to me. He said, you can't receive support unless you're supportable. He would phrase it in the positive thing. You're supportable. You receive support at the level that you're supportable. You have to be supportable to receive support. So I was like, oh, in other words, I have to be willing to hang in there and receive the support. If I'm going to turn tail and run, when the chips are down and the stress is up, then, there it goes. I'm not supporting myself, and therefore I'm not open to support. So that was kind of a tough lesson to learn and to move through that.
It is a tough one. It is a tough one, and one of the responses that we'll often see when we do, a shorter series of workshops, when people realize the enormity of what needs to be done, that what we're looking at is literally cleaning up 1,000 generations of bloodline and the ingrained realities of hostility and fear of all those generations. People sometimes, you talked earlier about overwhelm, go into overwhelm. It's like, well, this is just too much. I mean, how long is this going to take me? Does this mean I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing this? It's like, yeah, that's what you're going to do. You are going to clean and wash your mind every day for the rest of your life, just like you're going to do with your body. There is no point at which anybody would say, I've now taken enough showers, I never need to shower again. If they did that within 2 or 3 days, they'd be pretty stinking. And it's the same thing with this mind. When we live on top of 1,000 generations of the kind of things that have gone on in our bloodline, the alcohol, the drugs, the viciousness, the violence, the divorce, the infidelity, the craziness that goes on, these are all literal energies and frequencies that are passed generation to generation. How many have heard the quote from, let's say, a spouse, "You're just like your father," or "You're just like your mother"? It's like, yeah, that's right. That's where we got a lot of it. And you know who they were like? Just like their fathers and mothers who were just like theirs. And these are ingrained family patterns. So, they call them, in the 12-step program we've been doing more work with, they call them family of origin issues. And those issues are deeply, deeply ingrained. And it takes really consistent support to move through it. And I want to acknowledge David Hayes for creating for Heartland the Building the Brain Cells game.
And David is on the air. Hi, David.
Oh, cool. So, David, I really acknowledge you for creating the Building the Brain Cells game so that people have support for moving through those issues that otherwise are just not movable on one's own. Because the tendency is I do this while it feels good, but then when the really important stuff that needs to be cleared out comes up, most people just turn tail and run. Give me a fifth of scotch, give me a Twinkie, give me a quart of ice cream, and I'll feel better and I won't have to do this. Any thoughts, David?
I do. Yeah, I was listening to what you were saying, and so one of the things that came to my mind when you were saying that, a person gets a fifth of scotch or they get a pint of ice cream, other comfort foods, so forth. My thought was
a pint. David, a pint.
Pardon me?
A pint of ice cream. Who?
Well, you always begin with a pint. The mind will always say, "Oh, I'll just have a bite," and then just
David,
bite,
it starts with a quart.
Well, in order to get to the quart, though, most people just talk to themselves and say, "I'll just have one cookie. I'll just have one bowl of ice cream," and then the next thing you know, well, then it is the quart. Well, I've already broken my agreement anyway. I may as well eat the whole gallon. And it goes like that. And my point is that it's not a conscious decision that's made. It's an automatic decision. It's not a choice about doing it, as you talk about. Once that the program is opened up and comes from the unconscious, that's the challenge, to be able to catch it and intervene at that moment. It's very, very difficult. And when Terry was talking about being supported, the line that I used is, you can only be supported at the level of your willingness to be that you're supportable. If you're not supportable, no one can support you. No one can make you do anything. The truth is, nobody makes us do anything. We do what it is. It comes from our choices and decisions that we made, whether they're conscious or unconscious. And I'm unconscious a major, major part of the time. I like to tell myself that I'm conscious, and the truth is my unconscious is running me. When I have support where there's someone out there that is practicing staying conscious and learning how to support themselves as well as others, then I get to be reminded, wait a minute, because when I'm in my stuff, I can't see it. Just like when all of a sudden I put the cookie in my mouth or take a bite of the ice cream or have the first beer, it's like, oh, well, what's the difference? I've watched myself through many, many years, and then my mind just justifies what it is that I'm doing. And then, there's another line that I've picked up along the way is that, well, I am going to change, and when am I going to change? Soon. And there's a thing is, it doesn't get any easier later. It only gets later, and it's later than you think. The mind just plays in that way, or the dissociated mind, rather than just the mind. That's the dissociated mind. To keep it hidden.
So, well, I'll do it. I'll do it later. It's no problem.
For sure. And we tell ourselves that, and that is an agreement. That is something that we said. And then when we don't do that, then we feel bad. And that's what Terry was alluding to, is that, gee whiz, we then get to the place that, I'm just not even going to make any agreement. There's a statement that went like this that one of my teachers was talking about, and I used to work with homeless veterans in Nashville, Tennessee for about 10 years, and it gets to the place that where a person did not grow up with the thought that, wow, one day I'm going to be homeless. I'm looking so forward to that. It began with, well, I don't care. And then it becomes, I don't care that I don't care. And then, well, I don't care that I don't care that I don't care. And then they're out there. And that's what happens. They never, ever had an intention, a conscious intention of doing that. It gets to that place, well, I don't care. Oh, it doesn't matter. And, of course, that's what the world wants to associate. That's like the virus that you talked about in the Korean War where they put the person outside that froze to death. They were saying, well, I don't care. They got to the place that I don't care, that I don't care, that I don't care. And when we do that, when that happens, then it's a reflection of what it is that we're creating for ourselves in our own life. So it doesn't get any easier later. That's, the thing is, if you remember when you were 12 years old, what couldn't you remember but wait to be? Couldn't wait to be 13. Everything's going to be great when I turn 13. Then you turn 13, what happens? I know, I can't wait until I turn 16. So then I can get a driver's license. And so you turn 16, get the driver's license. And then, wow, I know I can't wait until I get 18. Then nobody can tell me what to do. I'll arrive. Then life will work. And then what's the next stage you want to become? It's 21, so you can drink legally. And then after you turn 21, nothing changes. And then it's like, wow. When I did this, Michael, and I've done this in front of hundreds of people, that I would ask them, so what's the mind then tell you that when you're going to be happy, when are things going to work out? It's when I turn 25. And the biggest reason why people wanted to turn 25 was that their insurance rates were going to go down on their car. That was a big thing. And then, there's the statement of, well, you know what? I know what I'll do. I'll get married. Then I get married. And then, I know. I'll get the house. I'll get the white picket fence. And then I'll order children. And then you get children. And then, I'll be happy when. And I'll do this when I get all of these things. And there's nothing outside of us that can do that. So
the bottom line is, it's time to do it now. Is that what I'm getting, David? Are you saying it's right here, right now, start your process, commit to somebody that you're going to do it and report to them every day, and you'll have support for moving through those things that otherwise it's too easy to go into inertia around? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, that is the way that it's worked for me and for lots of other people that I know of. I know what hasn't worked, Michael. What hasn't worked is me doing it on my own. It has not worked, and that's the definition of insanity, to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect to get different results. Well, I tell
there's that wonderful, There's that wonderful African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And what we're looking to do is to create communities of support. And, of course, the idea of this radio show, as you said, Terry, when we moved on out of Sarasota, you didn't have support. And so the radio show, MindShifters Radio, is about giving people ongoing support in their daily work so that you can tap in 5 days a week. You've got a question about the worksheet or any one of the dozens of tools that we teach and support in doing it. And we're here to offer that and to move forward and give people the benefit of our experience with it and the refinement of using the tools.
And so
anyway, building the brain cells, people can look at your presentation. You've got a PowerPoint on whyagain.com that people can look at for building the brain cells and look at whether or not they might want to register for it.
Yes, so if they go to whyagain.com and click on games, then they'll see the link for building the brain cells, and they click on that, and David's got all kinds of information out there on that. And we have Lady St. Jane on the line that has a question.
Oh, Lady Jane. Now, here's somebody who has been doing the work for, Jane, you've been around the work now for what, 5 years, I think, or 6?
About 7, I think. Yeah,
7.
Something like that. Great.
And when you were at Heartland this summer, it was, your 4th trip there. You made a commitment to do Building the Brain Cells game. And has that made any difference in your life?
Oh, yeah, terrific difference. It makes it because I made a commitment. See, my big thing is I'll do it because I told David I would do it, even though I don't want to do it sometimes. And so that because I have that support. He's very, the whole Heartland, the people, yourself, everyone is about supporting you. So you really feel pretty good about doing it. But I called to tell you something that last Friday, or share something with you. Last Friday I called in because I had a problem, and you suggested a couple of things. And the problem briefly was that I was having difficulty with the cell phone with my significant other, and it continued on for many, many years. It seems like there was always something wrong with his phone. So I was very aggravated about it. But I knew that there was some connection between him and my mother, and it had to do with communication. So you suggested that I do a worksheet on my mother, which I have done, but not in communication. So I did one, and that evening he called, and then the cell phone was as clear as a bell. That was a remarkable thing in such a short time.
The cell phones cooperate, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, well, they do because that energy going through the lines, that's with my... And then you said ask him if he doesn't want to receive my communications, because that's a story I made up. And he said, well, that wasn't true, that he was fine with my communication. See, that's 2 things I learned from doing a worksheet, and you suggesting that helped. So I wanted to share the good news from doing one worksheet, how it can change a situation. Because, I went in with my mother and communication and forgiveness. And since I had plugged him into that, I let that go.
That's
and
awesome.
I said, who are you anyway? And I went to a quart of ice cream. Anyway, I wanted you to know that was very helpful.
Well, that's awesome, and it is amazing how it works. I was invited to a gathering the other night of some people who are business people here in Fort Lauderdale, and we were invited 2 weeks ago and went down and did a Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop for a group of about 20 people on a 125-foot yacht, anchored right on the platform where President Nixon used to land his helicopter to go to the small house next door to where he lived when he came to Florida. And the house where the pad is the house where Scarface does his famous, is taking his machine gun and shooting and going over the railing. You're in those 30-foot tall windows. Well, that's the house the yacht is anchored at and belongs to those folks. But there was a gentleman there who is extremely successful businessman, and he was in some challenges in his relationship. And, he had this really huge story about her and what was wrong with her and how she did it to him. And And it was just ongoing, and they were probably just going to break up. And he sat through the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop going, well, you know, I know all this already. It's like, this is a waste of time. And a couple of times he actually broke into the workshop with his story and like, you know, why don't we get on to something important? And as I invited him to just let the workshop unfold, all of a sudden he realized that, and I mean, it was a major breakthrough for him, that he really had a handle on his creativity and his power in terms of business and making money. Extremely successful. And he had no handle whatsoever on his power and his creativity at creating relationships. It was all somebody else's fault, just like Mom had blamed him. And as he got that breakthrough, it was just like an awesome shift. And it's the next time I saw he and his girlfriend, instead of, you know, she's out of here and it's over, all of a sudden it's like, wow, we just, you know, we're having a blast. And then, as I said, we went to their place for a gathering 2 or 3 nights ago, and they both came to me saying that they'd had another layer, you know, of really heavy-duty conflict come up in their faces, and they both sat down to do a worksheet together. And they were both just such smiles and such awesome delight with themselves and each other, because instead of, you know, playing the game of look what you've done to me, they were each able to stand back with their own worksheet and go, oh my God, look what I'm doing, and to start to really support each other in that healing process. And that's so awesome when people start to really support each other instead of playing this game of, you know, my pain is up, it must be your fault, to be able to language, my pain is up, it's my responsibility. I want support and assistance for moving through it. And it's just so awesome to watch that happen with folks.
You have a
David
rough...
popped back in. He said he had a question there.
Who's that?
Well, hello. This is more on a level of a comment and a recognition, inviting Jane to recognize, and for the audience to notice what things that we were talking about, what the support looked like. And to support anyone, the person has to be supportable. And Jane is very supportable. What she modeled there was just exactly what happens when the 9-bit mind gets full and it's of hostility and fear of something of that nature. Then a true question or another point of view can't come through that. When there's another person that's holding the space and can offer something, and the person takes the information and applies it, and that's what support looks like. To take the information and to acknowledge it, to take the information and to agree with it is not applying it. It is just agreeing with it. It's finding another way around it. And invite Jane to recognize that that's exactly what it is that she did. And based on that, not knowing what the results is going to be, she trusted the process and did her work. And as a result of that, she got to see it differently. When she sees it differently, boom, you know, the truth makes you free. That's all. Oh, well, there's another way of seeing it. And I think that was a perfect example, Jane, and I acknowledge you, and that's what support looks like and supportability looks like.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Most welcome.
Awesome.
You're having a rough time down there, Michael, with the yachts and the hot weather and everything.
It's really been difficult. It's almost 80 degrees. Just came back from playing golf, and it was a beautiful sunny day, clear skies, and it was difficult, but we did it. We went through. I played a good game. Actually, one of the best games I've ever played.
Good.
And now we're back on the next level of everything we have to do and everything we have to work through and move forward.
Well, I'm glad for you, really.
So am I. So we're down to about 3 minutes. Anybody that's still on the phone with us? David, Terry, Lady Jane, any comment, question, thought?
Along the line that when we talk about being in our environment and being around and associating with points of view that actually agree with ours, and it's done at such an unconscious level. One of the things that happens is when we are brought back into, or we put ourselves into a situation that brings stuff up for us, it's to recognize that, wow, here's the opportunity to do the healing. And I'm referring to myself, where I'm visiting my immediate family of brothers and sisters and children and grandchildren, and the family dynamics is always engaged. Whether I'm here, whether I'm not here, then the dynamics go on, and then when I appear here, when I come here, well, then it shifts and dynamics start then being revealed. And it's always an opportunity for me to do my healing work and to hold the space for some others to do it as well. I just had lunch with my son and one of my sisters, and my sister is just recuperating from having several different cancers and processing through, and I was explaining to her about the work that you're doing, Michael, with some of the medical profession and the grant and the different things that are evolving into. And my sense was that she was taking it in. She said, well, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. And it's like, yeah, but the problem of it is everyone will say that on a conscious level. It's like, oh, yeah, I agree with that. On an unconscious level, well, then there is very little disagreement. And it's usually reflected in the tonality and the fear or hostility that's being expressed. Right. So I had an opportunity to hold the space of love. Yep.
Right. Well, we're down to 1 minute, so I'm going to just close out with remember that next week we're going to shift our time from 2 until 3 o'clock every day, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, with MindShifters Radio. Tuesday, we'll be combining our show with our new show on WWNN, a land-based radio station here in Boca Raton, Florida, 50,000-watt station that covers the whole southeast United States, the whole southeast coast of Florida. And so we'll be doing MindShifters Radio. If you want to check out, download our book, or order any products, or donate to support us to keep this show and other things we do on the road, please pick up the computer, jump on www.whyagain.com, or Google Michael Ryce, R-Y-C-E, and you will find our site. And that will tap you right into to our work and everything that we're about and everything we're doing. And our schedule's there. We'll be doing several things. But just doing... I'm actually sitting at someone's house, and they're just getting ready to leave and trying to say goodbye to me. But anyway, if you want to see our schedule, we actually met with a rabbi here in South Florida 2 weeks ago, and Friday night we'll be speaking at Art Serve Community Center on Sunrise Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale at their Shabbat service, and then next Wednesday at the Posner Community Center down in Davie. We'll be doing 7 to 9:30 on Wednesday night. We'll be doing Why Is This Happening Again? And then in Pompano Beach, March 2nd, we'll start a 6-day series of workshops. Why Is This Happening to Me Again will lead off, and we'll be doing relationships and communication. You can find the flyer on our website at whyagain.com. And then we're looking to create a venue up near Jacksonville or St. Augustine to follow that and be able to we're going to be heading up to St. Augustine, then back out to Las Vegas. And so watch our schedule in Las Vegas. We'll be doing some things out there. We're working with a physician who's putting this worksheet process, the forgiveness process, into practice in his practice and writing prescriptions for people to do forgiveness, to really do their own healing work. And we train 20 of his medical assistants to work with people, and all things moving forward. So please join us next week, Monday to Friday, 2 to 3 o'clock for MindShifters Radio. We're delighted to be on your team. We hold the space that you live 24/7, 365, an actual human life. That is a life where love is conscious, active, and present 24/7. 365. and we hold that you are about to have the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.